The lonely ghost, Juno, wanders the fields of old Canada amongst the ruins and snow. She feels an odd sensation that she has never felt before, one that was only described to her by other ghosts who had found their guardian. She was close. Juno looked around excitedly as she felt the feeling grow stronger as she approached a pile of rubble. A voice rang out over her comms, breaking the silence. The city is under attack. I repeat, the city is under attack. The Cabal have broken through and have taken the speaker. The Traveler is next, calling all reinforcements. Juno paused as she considered whether or not to resurrect her guardian or rush to the city without them. She made up her mind quickly and shined her light on the rubble. Seconds later, a hand emerged from the rubble. Her guardian was alive. The human female looked into Juno's eye. She had black hair down to her neck, tanned skin, and chocolate-colored eyes. Her guardian was a hunter. Suddenly, Juno's strength gave out. She collapsed in front of the young hunter. The hunter swiped the rubble away from her and picked up Juno carefully and inspecting her.
Hello? Are you okay? What's going on? Where am I?
The hunter asks. No answer from the ghost. The hunter stands up and exits the ruined building and into the harsh cold of the outside world. Looking to the sky, she finds the sun in order to gain bearing. Lost and confused, the hunter begins walking south through the city in hopes of getting warmth. To all surviving guardians, this is Commander Zavala. The city has fallen. Evacuate to Titan. The Traveler is lost. I repeat, the Traveler is lost. Evacuate to Titan. A deep, booming voice sounds over the hunter's comms. She looks around and sees nothing but calm and quiet in the snow-blanketed world around her. She looked to the sky and saw nothing. The only sounds were the whisper of the wind and her soft footsteps in the snow. Whatever was happening, she was too far to help and completely alone. For now. The lone hunter trekked through the wilderness, the silence broken every so often by the desperate comms crying out for help. She knew nothing of the pain these voices were experiencing or the tragedy happening elsewhere on the planet. All she knew was the bitter cold and the small, strange ghost that brought her to life, that now lay silent in her palm. She needed to find warmth or make somehow otherwise she would freeze to death. The hunter had already lost feeling in her nose and ears. After reaching the top of a hill, she noticed a shack in the distance. That would have to do for now until she could figure out what was going on. The hunter walked until she got to the cabin. There was a light on inside. She looked to her boot and noticed a blade and a sheath attached to the side. She drew the blade and noticed an insignia etched into it. The same insignia was on her belt. She tried the door and it didn't budge. She needed to get inside. Taking a few steps back, she ran at the door, slamming her shoulder into it in an attempt to knock it down. After 2 more attempts, it was opened from the inside. A man swung the door open holding a shotgun aimed at the hunter's head. She froze in place, blade ready to strike. The man lowered his weapon.
A guardian? I haven't seen one of your kind in decades. What brings you out this far?
He said, opening the door wider for her to enter.
I don't know. I was woken up a few hours ago, and all I know is the voices on my comms keep saying the city has fallen and the Traveler is taken. Do you know anything about that?
The man's face changed instantly to that of fear.
Come inside, quickly.
The hunter entered and sheathed her blade.
My name is Callum. Please take a seat.
The man said as he pointed to the table on the far side of the room. The hunter sat down and looked around, and Callum put his weapon next to the door as he closed it.
What happened to your ghost?
Callum asked as he sat across from her. The hunter laid her ghost gently on the table in front of her.
I don't know. When I awoke, it was hovering above me, but then just turned off.
Callum leaned in closer as he glanced between the hunter and her ghost.
Ghosts don't just deactivate. If what you say is true, and the city has fallen and the Traveler is taken, then that only means one thing. The light is gone. You might be the only one left.
The hunter sat back as she picked up the ghost gently and looked into its eye.
The light?
She said. Callum stood up and went to the kitchen.
Yeah, the source of your powers. I suppose if you don't know, you must not have ever used them yet. You really are young. By the way, would you like anything? You look frozen and famished.
The hunter, lost in thought, asked for something warm.
Oh, pardon me. I don't think I ever caught your name.
Callum said as he made some warm eggs and hot cocoa for the young guardian. She paused for a while. She didn't know who she was. She scrambled her mind for answers to this question, but only one name stood out.
Layla.
The hunter said gently. Callum smiled as he set down the plate of warm food and drink before her.
Well, it's nice to meet you, Layla. I think I have something you might like. Give me just a second,
Callum said as he left the room. Layla took a sip of the cocoa. It was the best thing she'd ever tasted, partially because she'd never tasted anything but cold air and snow up until this point. Moments later, Callum appeared with a cloth of some kind. It was folded neatly as he placed it before her and said,
I saw the symbol on your belt and knife. I haven't seen it since I was a child, but I recognized it instantly. You're a hunter. Every hunter needs a cloak.
Layla unfurled it and saw a hand-sewn landscape. She draped it over her shoulders and left enough for a hood.
It's perfect. What landscape is this?
That's the hill I grew up on. It's about 15 miles south of here. It doesn't look like that now, but it's just as beautiful as that, if not more so, during the spring,
He said with a slight smile. Her comms echoed aloud one last time. This time, the deep voice of the man called Zavala was replaced by a woman. Attention, all guardians on this channel. This is Sloan. Any survivors left must meet us on Titan. We've rallied who we can. For now, we must stay in hiding. This is our last transmission on this frequency. Good luck, Guardians. Callum's face sank as he heard the transmission and realized his fears were true. Layla looked to him and truly understood the gravity of the situation just by his reaction to it.
Well, looks like you have a job to do. You can bunk here for the night till the snowstorm passes if you'd like.
Later that night, Layla sat on the edge of the bed that Callum let her occupy. Her ghost lay silent and motionless on the nightstand while she pondered everything. Callum told her all that he knew about the city and the traveler, as well as her role as one of its many protectors, a guardian. Her supposed immortality was robbed from her, as she was just given new life. She took off her cloak and hung it off of the headboard of the bed and laid down. She slowly drifted off to sleep. Layla dreamed of a dark planet. It was blistering cold, but there was no snow. There was light, but there was no sun. There was a cave in the distance, with a small orange glow coming from inside. She walked to the cave and peered in. Various metal scraps lay around. Some looked like appendages. Others looked like parts for some kind of vehicle. She looked deeper inside. The light was coming from within. Layla looked around cautiously before entering. As she grew closer to the light, she saw a figure, a human figure, a woman wearing a cloak of her own, another hunter. Layla knelt down and gently, slowly extended a hand towards her. As soon as she touched the woman, she rolled to lock eyes with Layla. It was Layla. She was looking at herself. The woman shot up, and Layla took a step back. The woman's hand began to surge with lightning, and a blade very similar to Layla's, but larger, materialized in her hand, made of pure lightning. The woman's eyes glowed with the same lightning. Layla noticed the woman's left leg was robotic. Before Layla could react, the woman lunged for her. Layla shot up out of bed and checked her chest for the impact, only to find that nothing had happened. A significant amount of time had passed since she fell asleep. She gazed out the window to see the sun just barely peeking out over the mountain range in the distance, indicating the storm had indeed passed. She sighed and stood up. She now has more questions that she didn't think even Callum could answer. She picked up her ghost and put it gently into a pouch that Callum made for it to rest in. Then put her cloak on, quietly opened the door, and walked towards the front door.
If you're leaving, you may want a gun.
Callum said from behind her. Layla turned to see Callum with the shotgun he had aimed at her when they first met the night before. He held it out to her as a gift.
I can't take that. It belongs to you. Besides, how would you defend yourself?
Please, I insist. This weapon's done me good over the last decade. Besides, it ain't the only one I got. You ain't gotta worry about me.
She hesitated before taking the weapon as he handed her a decent amount of ammunition to go with it. The two barrels, stacked vertically, were freshly cleaned. The lever action was freshly polished and greased. He had made sure that this weapon was in peak condition. On the side of the butt of the weapon was the word Ranger engraved in gold. She slung it over her shoulder and stowed the ammunition.
I know you could put this weapon to better use than me. Better you use it to save the world than it gather dust on my shelves.
Thank you for taking care of me, Callum. I'll pay you back one day, I promise.
No need to worry about that. You're welcome anytime. Just be sure you make whoever took over the city feels every bit of pain they dealt, you hear?
Layla nodded and hugged him as she stepped out of the shack and back into the wilderness. Pulling her hood up, she glanced towards the sun once more and continued south. She walked for days through mountain ranges, forests, beautiful landscapes, and the ruins of countless towns. Each night she stopped to watch the stars before resting. She hoped the voices on her comms would tell her everything was okay. She hoped they would tell her she wasn't alone. She hoped, but the voices never came back. So Layla kept walking. She came across the ruined path that was once a 4-laned road. The cars that lined up and stretched for miles were all rusted and worn down. Some even contained the few bones of the people that died here. Maybe if she followed the road, she could find this supposed city. 17 days and countless miles had passed since she left Callum. She was beginning to believe that the voices were all in her head. Callum may have only been a figure of her imagination, and her ghost could possibly be only a rock she was having delusions about. Her faith grew weary with every step. Then a voice came from the pouch hanging by her hip.
Hey, what's going on? Guardian, is that you? Where am I? Let me out of here.
The voice said faintly. Layla pulled her ghost from its pouch. Her eye was glowing. Her ghost was alive.
Guardian, oh, by the Traveler, you're alive.
You are too. I was beginning to think I'd gone crazy.
I hope not. I can't fix that. But it's nice to finally meet you. I'm your ghost. My friends call me Juno. Where are we, by the way?
I was hoping you'd know the answer to that.
Juno looked back at Layla, who introduced herself and explained everything that had happened since she was resurrected as they followed the road.
So, you can heal me, prevent me from aging, repair my armor, and regenerate my ammo, but can't bring me back from dead because the light is gone.
Juno tilted her small frame to resemble a nod and began to speak, but was cut off due to a loud crash in the distance. Reflexively, Juno dematerialized almost instantaneously. Layla let her worry take over momentarily, as she quickly reached into her pouch to look for Juno, but found nothing. She then started to pat all over her body in search of her robotic companion, but feeling nothing.
Relax, I'm still here. I'm just tucked away safely. I promise, as long as I'm alive, you won't be alone anymore.
Layla swung the Ranger from her shoulder and had it aimed from where the sound came from. A creature appeared from that area and stood atop the cars. 4 arms, 4 eyes, a big gun, covered in fur. She ducked behind the nearest car and loaded a few shells into her gun.
That's a Fallen captain. The Fallen invaded the planet centuries ago. They're like cockroaches. It's hard to get rid of them. Unfortunately, they never travel alone. Would you like a helmet?
No, it's okay. My aim is better unobstructed.
Layla took a deep breath and cranked the lever, racking slugs into both of the barrels, and fired. She got the captain in an unfortunately armored part of his chest, and it seemed to do nothing but anger it and give away her location. It roared, and nearly 24 more of those creatures appeared behind it. Some had 4 arms, but were smaller. The rest were smaller still, but with only 2 arms. They all hopped on the surrounding cars beside the captain, no doubt trying to get better views on her. After a brief but loud exchange of gunfire, the Ranger clicked empty. A flash from one of the smaller 4-armed creatures burst through her shoulder, and she fell to the ground. Layla ducked behind one of the rusted cars as Juno got to work. Layla's shoulder had a hole clean through it. Her body began to glow very faintly as the hole closed, and the pain went away just as quickly.
This could have been worse, you know.
Juno said sarcastically, but with a not-so-subtle hint of genuine concern. Layla nodded and loaded 12 slugs into her shotgun as the arc rounds whizzed past and hit the ground around her. The captain jumped onto the car she was hiding behind and grabbed her by the cloak before she could pull the trigger. Layla kicked frantically, but the cloak was almost a noose in the way she was being held. The captain threw Layla as far as he could, and she bounced off of multiple cars before hitting the ground.
Please, try not to get yourself killed. I'd never forgive myself if our first adventure was also our last.
Moving as silently as a phantom, she divided and she conquered. One by one, the fallen began to disappear. They were worried now. Having begun this fight in a group of 23, they were now down to a group of 9. The grunts and growls from the captain became less of a war cry and more of a cry for help. As she slowly crept up behind the captain, she readied her knife to strike. He turned and she lunged at him, plunging her blade into the captain's skull. A grayish-blue gas seeped out as the limp body collapsed into the snow. The remaining 8 fallen stood stunned. Layla withdrew her blade and twirled it in her fingers as a challenge. One they would all accept. She threw her blade into the skull of the largest of them and leaped into the air to kick 2 of them simultaneously. She pulled her knife back out of the alien corpse and cut the throat of one that was attempting to reach for her. One of the fallen grabbed her cloak and she twirled around and cut its hand off, grabbing it and shoving the hand into the beast's mouth as it lunged at her. Then she kicked it away onto the jagged corner of one of the ruined cars, killing it. She sheathed her blade and ran for the Ranger that was lying a few yards from her and picked it up, firing 1 slug into the chest of one of the remaining 3. The last 2 lined up as if to make it easy for her as they ran at her. She fired the second slug and killed them both. She cranked the lever, racking another 2 slugs as she looked around at her victory.
Well done, Guardian.
Juno said as she materialized in front of Layla as she slung the Ranger back over her shoulder.
Thank you, but please, call me Layla.
Slipping back into the serenity of the winter ruins of civilization, they followed the road until they came across an old street sign. Juno flew up to investigate, coming to discover it indicated a shipyard lay only a few more miles ahead. Eventually, they came to the exit for the city housing the shipyard.
Is this the city the people on my comms were talking about?
Not even close. The last safe city on Earth is a beacon of life and prosperity, thanks to the Guardians like yourself who've been building it and protecting it for over 1,000 years. I can't wait for you to see it.
As the city came into view, the skyscrapers looked like skeletons reaching for the sky. Juno led the way through the city until they came across the hangar. It was a large building with an even larger landing yard behind it. Layla entered and navigated to where the ships were held.
There, that Nautilus-class jump ship is the best one here.
That's not saying much.
I agree, unfortunately. Wait here while I see if I can get it running.
The rounded ship with elongated thrusters on both sides sat rusted and covered in frost, but was the only one that nature hadn't taken over and was still in one piece. Juno flew up to it and shined her light onto the ship, scanning it and identifying its issues. She vanished again, and moments later the ship roared to life, slightly startling Layla. Juno teleported her aboard, and the ship left the hangar and roared into the sky. Layla looked out over the land below. The city beneath them looked calm in a macabre way. The wilderness from which she came from looked endless yet peaceful. The stars she was flying towards seemed as if to be inviting her to be amongst them. Her journey was only beginning.